Okay, so once again, a very warm welcome to our webinar today. It's a pleasure to have you all. We're starting a new series in emerging technologies and emerging trends. The first one we have today is for cybersecurity and the dark web. Maybe some of us have heard about cybersecurity. Some of us might have heard about what's the dark web. But today we'll get into some details regarding these two topics to understand their importance and how they connect, and why we should pay attention to this topic. So briefly, this is our agenda for today. We have two main topics to discuss. Cybersecurity will be the main focus. So we'll talk a bit about why it's important, the different levels of cybersecurity that organizations have. We'll discuss hackers, how they get access, what types of attacks they do, and then we'll give one specific example from the oil industry. I know the audience today with us is mainly from the oil sector, so we'll give an example of a real hack that happened in the United States and mention the damage that happened and why we should care, basically, as an oil industry, to be careful about cybersecurity. And then we'll talk about how we can, in general, at high level, protect our organizations from attacks as best as possible. And then we'll discuss a bit about what makes a cybersecurity expert. We'll also talk about some of the trends, the future trends. This is part one of the talk. Part two today will be about the deep web and the dark web. It's a very interesting topic. Not too many people know about it. We'll discuss this today to see what is this world exactly that's called the dark web, and how do you access it, what can you find on it, and why is it there, basically, and how it links to cybersecurity. I believe we will be taking 2 or 3 short breaks throughout the talk, and we'll have kind of Q&A after each section. So if you have any questions, please write them down, and we can discuss those as well. So what is cybersecurity? Basically, we've heard the term, but what does it mean, actually? So cybersecurity is a technology discipline, right? And hence the word cyber. And it deals with how to protect, this is the key word, networks, devices, services, systems, etc., from various types of attacks, electronic attacks. So it's not physical attack, you know, like thieves stealing a bank, or it's a digital attack, okay? And digital attacks can be quite complex and access many different types of technologies and processes, computers, smartphones, company networks, servers, databases, websites, and data. Of course, data is the new gold or the new oil, you might have heard. All these are areas that are prone to cyber attacks for different reasons that we will discuss today. So why do we care? Why do we talk about cybersecurity? The main issue is the costs and the danger it causes. I'll give an example that is hard to believe, but it is true, that cybercrime is expected to cost $10.5 trillion of damage annually. That's a lot of money. And if this was a country, it would be the 3rd largest economy in the world after the USA and China. This is the source of the article. I'll share this so we can see as well that this magazine is actually cybercrime specialized magazine, and this was the article, right? So I'll share also the slides afterwards. Everyone can read in detail, but currently it was estimated the damage is $6 trillion, and it's expected to be 10.5 trillion in the next 3 years. That's a lot of money, actually, and that's why we should care, right? As countries and as companies. Cyber attacks are increasing annually. The estimate currently is that it's rising 15% year over year. 2021, so last year, was identified as the worst year ever for cyber attacks in the history of humanity. And this is up 50% from 2020. So one of the main reasons this happened is, of course, due to the corona pandemic, COVID. Most companies, most countries and governments switched to online work. Many were not ready for protecting their systems and networks from cyber attacks. And when everyone almost is working remotely for 1 or 2 years, this opened up a huge window of opportunity for hackers to access devices, networks, and systems that were not properly protected. So it is a rising trend, and it's gaining more and more importance. So one study conducted by Allianz, which is a huge company, as we know, the number one risks, or I should say maybe digital and technology risks for companies, was cybersecurity. Okay, companies are also worried about losing their data. They're also worried about exposing anything that could look bad for the business and cause the stocks to crash. So lots of different reasons. For example, in the first half of 2022, there were 2.8 billion malware attacks across the world. And we'll talk about what malware attacks are and what ransomware attacks are, but we had 236 million ransomware attacks. That's a lot of attacks, actually. And by the end of this year, it is expected we'll have 6 billion phishing attacks. These types of attacks, malware, ransomware, and phishing, they're the most popular types of hacks, and we'll talk about these as well. But the important thing to know here is that it is increasing, significantly increasing the number of attacks. Again, this is another study by Cybersecurity Ventures. It's saying, cybercrime damage can reach around $6 trillion per year. It looks a lot, but when you actually think about it and you look at the companies, some companies that are hacked, it costs them tens of millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions in one company. That's a big company that's hacked. So if you group these together across the whole world, it starts becoming possible to imagine that it could reach $1 trillion, $2 trillion of that.